Hi, my name's Caroline Beckett, and I've been reading Zechariah's story and seeing how God blessed him.
And my name's Andy Griffiths. And yep, I've been reading that story as well. I'm just not as sure as you are that it would have felt like blessing for him.
Well, I agree, yes, it probably didn't feel like a blessing. It felt like isolation and maybe redundancy.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, he's a priest. As it happens, Caroline, you and I are priests as well. So we have some sense. He talks for a living. He's on all the rotas. He's got a routine. He probably has church wardens. And suddenly he's dumb and he's off the rotas.
But the silence might actually be a bit of a Sabbath, a gift. Here's a poem by Nigerian writer Enuma Okoro. What if the silence God bestowed was not fully punishment, but also odd blessing, offering 9 months to sit with the news, to ponder God's words, to process stupefied awe? But it's deeper than that. Though Zechariah may not have realised it, what was happening in his day was the beginning of a whole new chapter, actually, a whole new testament. And the patterns of disorganisation and reorganisation, well, that's one that goes back to the earliest days of God's plans. The Tower of Babel topples as languages divide, the earth floods and is then repopulated. Abraham must leave his home. Joseph is dislocated into slavery in order to make Egypt a safe haven for God's people. Moses leads God's people in exodus from Egypt into the wilderness. Joshua relocates them in the promised land. Destruction and exile, then return and rebuilding, or gathering and scattering and regathering, those things mark the life of the people of God. Jesus spends years in one place, in Nazareth, and then his ministry constantly in transit, shaking his society to its foundations. The early church is, well, it's just for Jews and Jewish converts, until it's suddenly not. And the Gentile church gets underway with Peter's vision and with the dramatic conversion of St. Paul. Disorganisation and reorganisation are like breathing out and breathing in to the people of God. They're a thread throughout the Bible, yet we overlook it. This is because of a simple truth that applies to all histories. Other people's disorganising narratives become our bedtime stories.
I love that, Caroline. Other people's disorganizing narratives become our bedtime stories. I mean, I think of Rosa Parks and the dismantling of segregation, and that's become a story that we just accept. That's just the way it was going to be. She did the right thing, the godly thing, the courageous thing. But I wonder if it felt like that to Rosa Parks on that bus at that time. Or I wonder if it was a lot more messy and more risky and more controversial than that. I wonder if good people told her that she was risking generating a lot of harm, that there'd be riots, that innocents would be hurt, and society would be destabilized, and that these are reasons to stop and sit down where she was told on the bus. Caroline, you and I are both involved in community organising as an approach for the whole of ministerial life. So we're committed to disorganising and reorganising. And when we tell stories about change looking back, well, if you're anything like me, you tend to smooth out the early stages, make them glossy, like the end result is shining onto the early stages and making it seem normal. So we know Zechariah's story is in Luke chapter 1, but he didn't know there was such a thing as Luke chapter 1. He just knew something weird was going on and his life had been put on hold.
Lord, open my eyes when my world is being disorganised. Help me to see the new starts in the inconvenient stops. And when silence is in my life, help me to make the most of it.
Lord, Give me the hope that out of disorganization, you can reorganize something new and fresher and better.